Okay, in this episode, I'm going to show you guys our new podcast studio. This is the first episode in the new spot. Chorus and I just moved in. Audio's better. We have control over lighting, which is nice. And we don't have to do the setup and teardown anymore, which is super convenient. We can just come in and record. And I'm going to sign up to Threads live. You guys are going to watch me sign up to Threads. I haven't done it yet. I'm very hesitant, and we'll talk about why. We're going to go through Mike Pence getting demoliated by Tucker Carlson and why that's the best thing that happened this week. RFK and him getting canceled because of his statements on ethnic targeted bioweapons. And then whether or not you can love somebody apart from the truth. Should be interesting, exciting. New show, new space. So here we are with all of my fun things. Some of these things you've seen in previous episodes, show and tell. This guy right here. We did an episode with that. We did one with this guy right here. A few other things that I didn't really include, but like this guy right here, this, I don't know what you'd call that. It's like it's from reclaimed wood. I made that when I first moved back to Albuquerque, and all the black is actually charred. So I charred it with one of my torches. Actually, it was my dad's torch, his jewelry torch. I think that's pretty neat. I found that chief over there, over at an estate sale here in town. My favorite hat, one of my favorite hats. I could literally point. Lasso, CB logo. Feels right at home. Not too much has changed. I still got my desk. The old Bible. Chorus has a little spot, but we haven't yet to decorate it.
It'll come soon. We'll figure that out soon.
We're trying to figure out what some of his items that he would like to show. Yeah, we're excited. It's actually like, it's not as big as the previous space, but because it was already a hair shop during the day, and it's like really loud and echoey. You guys, I know one of my friends, Matt's gonna love the audio. It's gonna be a lot better for him.
Yeah, Matt is our audio guy. He's like, there was a hum after the second point of the third. I was like,
I can't listen. There's an echo.
So this is all for you, Matt. It's all for you.
Yeah. Now we're not going to get the motor cars in the background. We're not on Route 66 anymore, unfortunately and fortunately. But yeah, a lot more space, and we have. We're going to create a corner for a different show with a group of people. Should be fun. But that's the show and tell. As far as announcements go, we don't have any. We're going to jump right into the show. Here we go. Now. Okay. I do it at the same time every single episode, huh? I'm noticing that.
What?
Okay.
It's all right.
It is fine. I'm just, I'm starting to notice my tics. Chorus is back. He went out of town for about a week.
I did. I was in Phoenix for about 5 days.
Yes. And it was hotter than here, and it is the hottest time of the summer.
Yeah.
How hot was it out there?
The hottest it was 114. And
That's
the coolest it was,
not bad.
No, it wasn't insane. The coolest it was like 90, okay. 96. Well, okay, I say that because the AC,
oh no,
they have legit AC in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Not swamp coolers. I don't know who decided that Albuquerque isn't, fit for actual AC.
Poverty.
So, yeah, poverty decides a lot here. So my living room in Albuquerque is much warmer than my Airbnb was in Phoenix.
Interesting. So you guys stayed inside most of the time?
Yeah, it was super chill.
How hot was? I saw that you did a dinner outside on a patio somewhere.
It was pretty hot that day, so we had an option to sit outside, but we actually sat like right on the other side of this big mountain overlook, like through glass windows, and then we went and took some photos out on the balcony. But
okay, so you were mostly inside.
Yeah, mostly inside.
Huh. Well, welcome back. Congratulations. 3 years, you said, yeah?
3 years, yeah. Married
awesome.
3 years. I was telling Gabby I was looking forward to coming back to the studio and doing a show, though. It was really good.
Yeah, I know. We moved in right before you left, and you left.
Yeah, so it's like getting a new car and then you can't take it for a spin. You know, yeah.
It's awesome though. He's got a dedicated space there. His whole desk is all set up constantly, so we don't have to plug everything in. It was rough every single week setting that thing up and then tearing it down after. We end the podcast probably around 10, 11 o'clock most days. And so it's just a bummer, tear down, and then it's like a 15-hour day. I'm crying about it right now. Okay, let me screen record here so I can throw it on the top there. But we're going to go into the threads. I'm going to make an account right now. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go into the 666 app. Did you see that meme?
Making fun of the logo? Is that
Yeah,
what
I think
is?
it was Kim.com. He said if you wanted to turn your logo into a 666, because it's kind of like two sixes. It looks like sixes. All right. So here we are. I'm on the front page. Click it. You got to write a bio and all that. I'm not going to do that right now. I could skip. Okay. So I'm skipping. A public profile is fine. So I hear that you can't go back once you've gone past this point. Is that right?
Yeah, once you set up a Threads account, it is permanently tied to your Instagram. So the only way you can get rid of the Threads account is by deleting Instagram.
So is this a bad idea?
It's a bad idea, but all of our friends are doing it, you know?
If everyone's doing it, let's do it. All right. Follow the same people, follow all. Why not? Join Threads. Powered by Instagram, Threads is a part of the Instagram platform. We will use your Threads and Instagram information to personalize ads and other experiences across Threads and Instagram. The Fediverse. Future versions of Threads will work with the Fediverse, a new type of social media network that allows people to follow and interact with each other on different platforms like Mastodon. Are you familiar with the Fediverse?
No, never heard of that actually. I mean, I probably glanced at that screen setting up Threads, but what does that mean?
I don't know. I think they talk about it in the No Agenda podcast sometimes, the Fediverse. I think it's a good thing, I don't know if this is a good thing, but I think the Fediverse is supposed to be a good thing. Your data, by joining Threads, you agree to the meta terms of Threads, so they're going to steal all my data. Starting. Waiting. Should I allow the notifications? I guess so. So I got Hormozy. Content hack. So he's posting probably just like Twitter. I was asking Chorus. This is probably really risky for me to show you guys my feed. Joe Greer posts. Someone please tell me where I can buy Portra 800 in 35 millimeter. Okay, so there's only a few people seemingly posting. That's kind of cool. It's literally just Instagram now. That looks like our patch. You can't see it, but it looks like our hat patch. Chorus. So Bethel, there's like literally 5 names that are coming up. Oh, Kanye. Oh, that's Kanye Defense Team. Well, there's that. Should I post?
Do the first one.
Let's see. What should I post, everybody? Chorus sucks. I'm just kidding. Something lame. First post test. What happens? I have to make a profile photo and everything? Interesting.
Mine just shared it over.
So literally I can't delete that post.
You can delete the post, I think.
But you can't delete the Threads app.
You can't delete your profile on Threads. Once you're on Threads, you're permanently on Threads because you're on Instagram and they're married.
Huh. Interesting. Jordan Peterson posted 3 hours ago.
I hope you can delete Threads. I said a lot of questionable things last night on Threads.
Did you?
No.
I was going to say, what are you doing? That's interesting. The layout looks nice. It looks beautiful. Very simple, minimal. I like the icons. But let's get real. They're trying to compete with Twitter. And that's enough of that for now. They're trying to compete with Twitter. And it's probably because Elon... Do you think he's actually doing the free speech thing? Like, do you trust him? What's your, on a scale of 1 to 10, Course, how much do you trust Elon?
I don't know why, but I have a good feeling about Elon Musk. And it might be because his enemies are my enemies in a lot of the same way, you know? So like our attention is facing...
Like George Soros?
Yeah, totally. Like globalism, he's against that. He seems to be, generally anti like authority being all kind of congregated at the top of a society. So those are things I'm for. And it seems like he's allowed free speech to thrive on Twitter at least more than it had before.
That's absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, true. A lot of people came back, with the exception of like 5 names, like Alex Jones. Ye got banned, of course. Handful of other people, Steve Bannon, I think, Andrew Tate, but he ended up coming back. So yeah, there's only a handful of people that aren't allowed back. So that is good. But there's also some people that aren't. What's interesting is he's supposed to be the free speech absolutist, but there's still people banned, and so it's, even though people aren't necessarily, I'm of the opinion that everybody should be allowed to say all of whatever they want to say, horrible or not. I mean, barring threats to violence and calls to violence. And
so you're pretty weak on the whole free speech stance then, right? Someone calls for one little riot and Chad's like, not on Twitter.
That's illegal, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it's against the law to call for violence. And so that's all I'm saying is that policies that mimic the U.S. law. I think that's kind of fair, right? The First Amendment. I think that if that is your stance, which it is on Gab, I believe Gab is very much so that way. Now, with that, you're going to get some crazy content, there's no doubt. But now I'm against the pornography thing, but I actually think that should be illegal too, because you should have the consent of underage people. Are going to obviously be using your app, so that you shouldn't be able to post that stuff, of course. So yeah, I'm very much so like open, say what you want to say, so long as it's not calling for violence, threatening someone's life. Doxing, that's another one. I don't think that's actually technically illegal, but that should probably not be. The digital world is causing so many different new, what would you call that? Just scrupulous types questions. Scrupulous questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of like nuance and things that we wouldn't have to consider before.
Yeah.
That are really consequential now on the internet.
Especially during like 2020 when everything was going off, and like Antifa and all these things, they were doxing people's locations, and all with like, especially with the anger and vitriol in the moment, the emotion, when somebody would dox someone's location, it was like not literally a call for violence, but it was kind of close. It's
implied.
Like with the amount of hatred towards certain people or groups. When somebody would like give your address or something like that, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Dude, are you familiar with swatting?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that was a thing. And is it more like in the gaming streaming community, or where?
I think it originated like on Twitch as a thing. Like people would just start getting swatted.
That's terrifying.
Stop giving people ideas, dude.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, that is terrifying. Especially when you're doing a live stream and they want to see you do that, because obviously, like Timcast, right? Temple, he's been swatted like 10 times. People know the address at this point, and they still, for whatever reason, the cops still come. They still go. I guess they have to. But essentially, I don't even. But yeah, that swatting's terrible. That happens. That should obviously be illegal. Calling a false call. That's a hard one. But yeah, so Threads versus Twitter. I'm obviously in favor of Twitter. Curious to see what Threads does. It's nice because I don't have to like work to regain a following, I suppose. If it integrates your Instagram audience into the Threads, that's nice. That's convenient. But I'm not going to be baited in guys. I'll take free speech over following any day. I actually feel that way. Like I'm like, I didn't. That's why I haven't made an account until now. What's today? The 17th of July, and it came out about a week ago or something. I'm curious though. Maybe it'll be a fun, nice community. That might be a breath of fresh air. It doesn't always have to be edgy and controversial, I suppose. But I do kind of live in that space. I like that stuff. So anyways, Elon's suing Threads. This is not new news. This is old news. I'm curious to see what happens. Apparently, like some former Twitter employees moved over to Meta to help start Threads. So there might be a legal case there. It's a bummer for Elon. He spent $40 billion on Twitter, and here we go, in immediate competition with Meta, who has billions and billions and billions and billions and billions, and I'm just kidding, of dollars. How is he going to compete? Who knows? It sucks. I sure hope not. I think they're going to be different things entirely. Apparently the traffic has been dropping off like crazy for Threads. Obviously it doesn't have the same engagement. Even from the little snapshot I just showed, there was only like a handful of names that were popping up, people posting. I don't think the Instagram people are very... You know what's hard is I think and I struggled with this, getting involved in podcasting, is that Instagram kind of lent itself to this like, not to hide behind a mask or like a profile feed or whatever, but that's kind of how it developed. For those of you who have been around in the Instagram world since the beginning, it was all about like posting obviously beautiful photos. And then whenever you were able to kind of create a cohesive feed where all of those photos seemed to mesh together, that was kind of the signal of, oh, I want to follow this account. But what that created, I think on accident, was this polished life thing, right? Where Instagram became kind of infamous for this fake polished feed where everything, it lacked behind the curtain thing. And I became a participant of that because I like, a good aesthetic. I like a good visual. And that's why I'd start following people. And then I kind of succumbed to that idea. But you lack depth in that dynamic. And so that's what's interesting with Threads is now here's the depth, possibly. I'm curious to see if people make the jump to kind of show behind the curtain, or if it's going to just be a shallow words-based side of the same culture. I'm curious. I don't know. Obviously, it's yet to be seen. But if it's able to be created, I'm here for it. Maybe it's a positive atmosphere of ideas, creativity. Possible. I'm open to it. I think it's a bummer that you can't delete it. Is that real? Can you delete single tweets or whatever? What do you call them? Threads?
I think you can delete your actual posts, but you can't delete the account itself.
Okay. So if you get canceled, can you like make it private? Like everybody does on Twitter?
Yeah, you could probably make it private.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could try it. We could cancel someone. Attack everyone right now.
Everybody go after Chorus.
Yeah, come for me. I could use the traffic. I'm trying to blow up.
Yeah. What do we have? Oh, and Threads. So this is the big downfall that we were talking about. The Twitter's free speech platform, Threads, was immediately started censoring people. In fact, I have an article in the notes. It was Jim Jordan talking about how allegedly the U.S. government is already in cahoots with Threads to censor Americans. Yeah, Jim Jordan writes, letter to Zuckerberg says Threads censoring Americans. Yeah, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan sends letter to Zuckerberg raising questions about Threads censoring Americans. He sent a letter because apparently Threads already working with the federal government to censor Americans. So, yeah, that's not good. And I honestly, I don't know where you're at, of course, where you think about this, but I think the American public, or maybe the world public at this point, is just so jaded by censoring. I think most people are just like, stop it. They're just so desensitized to this fake thing. I sense it everywhere. That people are done with the facades. They don't want anything. They just want authenticity. They want the truth. They want genuine people, genuine news, genuine things. After the last few years, I think people are just so tired of the lies. And I totally sympathize, which is why I protested the making of the account until we did this just now. So maybe that's, I don't know if there's any utility in that, but okay. This is a fun one. So Tucker was at like the Blaze TV thing, the Blaze Media, where he interviewed a bunch of different presidential candidates, Republican presidential candidates. And there was that clip that everybody's seen by now. So this is old news, but I wanted to show it because I think it's on topic from what we've been talking about in the past few episodes. With Ukraine and the war, and then you get the normie Mike Pence stance. Sorry if this is your stance, not sorry at all. But it's very normie, and let's hear it. Do you have it pulled up?
According to news reports. And I'm wondering if during that meeting, as a prominent Christian leader, which you are in addition to your political views, you broached the question of his treatment of Christians within Ukraine. The Zelensky government has raided convents, arrested priests, has effectively banned a denomination, a Christian denomination, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church within Ukraine, has persecuted Christians. And I wonder if you raised that with him.
I did raise the issue when we were there. And I raised it with the leader of the Orthodox Church when I was visiting Kyiv and asked him about concerns about religious liberty. He assured me that the Zelensky government in Ukraine was respecting religious liberty, even while recognizing that there were very small elements of the Russian Orthodox Church that were being
Does he come across as authentic in any way to you?
Honestly, his demeanor in speaking at this thing was so off-putting to me. I think, first of all, he's afraid to make eye contact when he's obviously taken the wrong response in this particular area.
Mm-hmm.
And he just feels like he's like in theater. He takes the long, drawn-out breath, and then
it's just all
stately.
Other than the sanctity of life, there's no higher.
It's just so composed. There's no humanity in it.
Yeah, it's super weird. Like composed, but not even like not like stoic or like stately. I think he wants to come across as stately. He just seems like a dirtbag to me.
This is the big conundrum. Is there two different philosophies, and you deal with it in all different sectors of like public life, I'd say. Like, do you just be yourself? Which he's not being himself there. Maybe he's just been so drenched in politics and radio and all this, because I think he was a radio guy before as well. But just like this orator, this composed, this professional, you know what it's like? It's like in music. Like I've never considered myself a singer, like a vocalist or like a good singer, but I sing. I'm a singer-songwriter. I used to be a singer-songwriter. My philosophy was always like natural. And sometimes it feels weird because it's like, am I even in melody? I don't know. I relate it to like an opera singer. Like Mike Pence is an opera singer. Like he's a trained orator. He's trained at speaking. He knows what not to say. He knows what lines to stick within. And when you listen to it, he's dated. It's dated. I don't think that people, especially in this moment in time, that translates to people at all anymore. At least to the younger crowd. Maybe to the older people, it does. There's this new authenticity that is, if you don't have it, you don't have trust. There's no weight. There's no, and that's what that comes off to me is he's an opera singer. Like it's not real. I need a Hank Williams to just tell it like it is, like Johnny Cash was kind of a mix of both. Actually, Johnny Cash was kind of, if you watch his old show, it's kind of like that. I think he's trying to play the rock and roll guy, the prison Folsom Blues guy. God bless him. God bless his, But it was kind of like that. It was like this TV thing where I think the real value is like if you can get on a camera and like talk to a group of people, thousands, millions of people, and just like be real. Let's finish out that clip. But Vivek Ramaswamy, I think, is the proper context in what I'm talking about here. But let's finish out that clip with Mike Pence.
Priority in my life than preserving the freedom of religion in America and championing religious liberty around the world.
I'm confused. On this question, it's very clear that the Zelensky government has arrested priests for having views they disagree with. That's not consistent with religious liberty. It's an attack on it, and we're funding it. And I'm just wondering how is it, and I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, but I sincerely wonder how a Christian leader could support the arrest of Christians for having different views.
Well,
Excellent question.
What I can tell you is I asked the Christian leader in Kiev if that was in fact happening, and he assured me that it was not. People were not being persecuted for their religious beliefs. Now,
he said that no priest had been
let me take a
arrested?
break here. I know we disagree on this strongly, but I respect your right to your opinion on Ukraine, and I trust you'll respect mine. Look, I've been to Ukraine now twice. My wife and I traveled into Ukraine a month after the initiation of hostilities. We traveled then with a group called Samaritan's Purse, providing Christian relief to the millions of Ukrainians, women and children of every age that had to flee that country in the face of the unprovoked Russian invasion that began a year and a half ago. I did return, took an 11-hour train ride.
Unprovoked. So it's hard. It's hard. I hear that, and when I first listened to this, he's saying Samaritan's Purse, and Chorus and I are friendly with like a part of our church, Samaritan's Purse connection. I have no issue with donating and helping the people that are in the plight of this thing, but he's conflating that in a sense. I don't know if he's meaning to or not. God bless him. No ill will, fellow Christian, but to support the government is different than to support the people. And that's what I believe Samaritan's Purse is doing. And that's fine, that's good. But he's wanting to give Ukraine weapons fast, now, to fight Russia.
And he's trying to moralize the whole cause, right?
Yeah.
He's conflating every nuance and he's blending it all together and saying morality means we must support Ukraine with, munitions.
Yes, you could support the Ukrainian people without supporting the Ukrainian government. And that's my position. Yeah, there are plenty of obviously innocent civilians that want nothing to do with this conflict. And he said unprovoked. Come on, that's not true. We know that NATO and Ukraine's been trying to join NATO, but they're not. The West is using Ukraine as a proxy war against Russia. They're wanting regime change. Totally true. So for him to say that this war or, Russia invading Russian-speaking parts of the Donetsk region, if I'm not mistaken, is unprovoked, that's disingenuous, which matches his demeanor. Let's finish it out.
Into Kyiv, also again with Samaritan's Purse, we not only met with government leaders, but we met with Christian relief workers. We're literally rebuilding homes of people in small towns, little hamlets, that a year ago were being shelled by Russian tanks, while the people in that community were just sitting in their homes. I mean, the truth is, what I saw was not just evidence of war, but I saw evil. And I believe that it is in the interest of the United States of America to continue to give the Ukrainian military the resources that they need to repel
Why
the
in the
Russian
interest of
invasion
America?
And restore their sovereignty.
May I
Audible
ask,
boos from the crowd. I think that's the only time booing happened
I believe you have a good faith
in this
position on
event.
this, and we have disagreements on it. But I want to I can't let you elide over the question of the treatment of Christians and clergy.
I know. I heard
and
that
would
again,
you be?
Tucker.
Well, no, but hold on. Would you be
Problem is,
willing?
you don't accept my answer. I just told you that I asked the religious leader in Kiev if it was happening. You asked me if I raised the issue, and I did.
And I'm saying
I also raised it with the Ukrainians, and I was told that there are religious leaders who have been working with the Russian military
got some
that is
spine on him,
murdering people
Yes, he does.
by the thousands.
Okay.
I mean, Tucker, look.
Wait, but hold on. Don't you
Come
think,
on.
Let me explain to you what I think our national interest is there.
I would think you would have greater concern for religious liberty in Ukraine. And I'm surprised
I
by
told
your
you I
answer.
raised the issue of religious
No,
liberty.
you spoke to one person who's clearly
I didn't
on
say I
one
spoke to
side
one
of it, and there are many, many news reports that are not disputed by anybody that
Right.
Many clergy have been arrested in Ukraine, and I'm merely saying I may not agree with their views. I'm not Russian Orthodox, but you can't arrest clergy for having different views, period. Because if you do, you
He's
violate
also
the
shut
basic
down
tenet of
media,
liberty.
opposing media
I want to be
organizations.
clear with you. I won't stand by it. I won't stand for it.
Suspended elections. Not cool. And then so contrast that with Vivek, where he's totally real, offering real solutions, has a finger on the pulse of the culture, is listening. He's like the only one. Maybe Trump has a position that's, he wants to end it in 24 hours by negotiation. I don't know exactly what his negotiation would be, but let's hear Vivek if you've got it.
Are a younger person and spend time with them. We saw yesterday that a group of reservists has been called up to Europe, apparently, to prepare for war with Russia. Of people in the age cohort who might plausibly be called up to do that, what's the response?
I think there is no basis for us to send our young men and women, our sons and daughters, people my age or any age, to go defend somebody else's border halfway around the world when we should be using our own military to secure our own border in this country. And I will not apologize for that. We have to put the interests of this country first. And one of the things that does frustrate me, Tucker, is that this is one issue where I so love many of the other people who are running for this nomination for president. I think most of us and the entire field I speak for are in this for the right reasons. We are people who care about our country and want to deliver our country to a better place. But on this issue, nearly our entire field is indistinguishable in practice from where Biden is on this, which is in an undefined, ill-defined way, pouring more money into a war that I think is destined to become Vietnam or Iraq.
That we have no
all
choice
over
in
again.
as the American
and if you
people.
don't learn from the lessons of the past, you're going to be making the same mistakes on an even larger scale going forward. We have to end this war. We can end this war and start prioritizing the interests of actual U.S. citizens here at home.
Great.
So I think...
So now let's hear the other one. How to end, this is his solution as to how to end it. Rational.
So what I've said is that I would negotiate a deal that ends the Ukraine war, frees the current lines of control. Yes, that means giving part of the Donbas region to Russia.
They're
I would
Russian
make
speaking.
a hard commitment that NATO never admits Ukraine to NATO. And those seem like unspeakable words in certainly the Republican donor class. But we get something greater in return, which is that Putin, in that case, would have to exit his military partnership with China and remove nuclear weapons from Kaliningrad, which border Poland, and get the Russian military out of Cuba and Venezuela and the West. And this is a deal that Putin should do because he ends up winning. He gets things that he doesn't have today. But it secures American interests, too. And I do think in a weird way, it does take an outsider to get that job done. Because if you want someone to fix a problem...
Does he come across more authentic to you?
Completely.
He's a very good speaker.
It's insane to me that it takes someone who has no experience in politics, who happens to have the only rational, as far as I'm concerned, the only rational solution to this whole situation.
Do you think that's because you get caught up in this bubble of like Mike Pence was caught off guard? I don't think he expected to be asked the tough questions. I heard it said on a separate clip, it was Dave Smith was talking about how Tucker normally the reporters or people asking the question, they'll have the boundaries that Mike Pence can expect to stay in. And Tucker was like not respecting those boundaries, kind of the mass Republican or Democrat position on this issue. And he was caught off guard. I think that he needs to kind of listen. I think you get caught up in this bubble of politics or whatever, and it takes somebody like a Trump to come and shake things up, takes like a Vivek Ramaswamy to kind of give new ideas, a new flavor, because I think it's not just in politics though, it's in like church, it's in any organization where you don't have outside interaction with the world, with others, finger on the pulse of the culture. And I think Vivek does. He's in business. He has a different perspective. And I think that's important. So I came across this other clip just to supplement this. It was Mike Pence. I didn't know. This is Mike Pence, trying to slam dunk Tucker, and what happens. It's a metaphor, really. It's Mike Pence trying to give Tucker an elbow drop from the top rope. Sorry for the language.
Oh my God!
He missed him.
Completely missed him.
Oh,
Just
my
drops onto the
gosh.
ground.
Poor guy. Sorry, Mike. A big miss, brother. All right, you can.
That is insane.
Oh, what a fail. No, but this one is actually Mike Pence. He's on a bike, and this is also him. Afterwards.
Che traffico c'è? Oh, c'è dove
Oh my gosh.
Dude, into the abyss.
Dove Dio amore?
Sorry, Mike.
What's funny about that clip is that like the nice slow camera pan that this person had, they had like expressed no urgency in their friend falling off a
they
bike
didn't
at all.
even-
Like, look how slow the camera pan is.
Oh my, she's gone, dude. Straight into the lake of
Just
fire.
gone, dude.
No, sorry. I have a hard time with Mike Pence. Like hopefully he's a genuine brother in the Lord, but I just have a hard time, obviously, since the Jan 6 situation. I just always... So my thoughts on that, dude, I'll just share them. For those that lived through that day, it was a rough day, of course. But I remember very much so, I was watching the speech. And everybody was like waiting on bated breath. What's Mike Pence going to do? Because the whole like theory was, could they send it back to the States? Could they do this? And he says that he had no legal opportunity to do that, but there were lawyers that were disputing that. And so he was caught, no doubt, in a very, very difficult choice. My frustration is, though, and this is why I kind of think it wasn't necessarily malice, but it was messed up, is because he had like almost the entire week to make the decision. And he did not make it until the march to the Capitol. Literally just before Trump ended his speech on the lawn, his response essentially saying that he wasn't going to send it back to the States came out. And it was like this thing that was going to infuriate people. And it did infuriate people, and it upset a lot of people. It like did not help as far as the whole, storming the Capitol narrative is concerned. I think it was a big contributor. And then, of course, you got the feds, you got all that other stuff that contributed to the whole thing. But no, it was worse than 9/11. So anyway, we could skip the meme. Let's go into one more little intense topic here before the. It's hot in here. There's no AC right now. We'll get it fixed. So RFK got caught this weekend. He didn't get caught, but I think New York Post, I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday, that they posted this clip where RFK was caught on a video off the record, not cool journalist, talking about ethnic targeted bioweapons. You probably heard about it. If you didn't, it was a big one that went around. But he essentially said that the bioweapon was targeted toward, or at least it seemed, I'm sorry, bioweapon, I mean COVID, disproportionately affected white and black people negatively and didn't to other groups. Let's play the clip. I'm curious.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. The level, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing.
Let's pause it real quick.
In fact,
So he's a Chinese thing. I saw this in 2020. This is old news. Ethnically targeted bioweapons. It has something to do with receptors. I don't even know the science behind it, of course, but it's old news. It's true, and it was from a 2013. I remember seeing this. It was like a 2013 report that came out about China had this technology. Now, be it China, whoever it is, obviously it's terrifying. Keep playing it.
COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor.
Watch the woman's face.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that.
So positive.
We do know that
that's pretty much that. But that got taken and exploded all over the internet. Essentially, taking him as saying it was designed that way, imputing a motive. Sounds like that. Who knows? But crazy stuff. Terrifying, to say the least, that certain ethnic groups can be targeted based on based on their DNA. And so this is actually why when I found out about this in 2020, the whole thing, I got spooked. What's funny is when we got canceled, I'm part Native American, but not enough. I'm not from a reservation or whatever. But my mom kept saying, you should do one of those 23andMe's. You'd kind of like get them off your back, because they were getting mad at me because I was making Southwest jewelry and doing turquoise and all these things, and I can't do that because I'm not Native enough. Of course, the diversity crew was getting on my back for that. So my mom was like, do 23andMe and prove it to them. And so I said, no, I don't want to do that because this. And you have that article pulled up? You can take someone's DNA and design a weapon that can kill them. House Intelligence Committee member warns people not to share the health data with sites like 23andMe because it can be used to program new bioweapons to target them. Dark. U.S. Rep. Jason Crow warned that bioweapons are being made that use a target's DNA to only kill that person during the Aspen Security Forum on Friday, he said. When was this written? Or when was this posted? Is this an old
July
one?
2022.
2022. So this was last year. So it's no new news, obviously. This is 2022. This was last year. Over a year ago. And then I was kind of sharing the show notes with Chorus, and he was like, oh yeah, did you hear about this?
Yeah, this one's crazy.
Police used a baby's DNA to investigate its father for a crime. So what happens, why don't you tell me?
So apparently what happens is a few hours after a newborn is born, the hospital will do genetic testing on the blood. So they'll draw a vial and they'll run it through all the tests and let you know, hey, your baby is predisposed to X, Y, and Z. And so throughout the course of their life, we can take these certain steps to make sure that they're healthy. Well, that DNA is then turned over to the state and is held for up to, I think it's like 23 years or somewhere around that ballpark. And investigators have access to those DNA labs or those banks, and they're using them to actively solve or implicate family members in ongoing crime investigations.
Do parents have to give consent for this?
So I think it's murky from state to state on what they'll allow the parents to decline before like CPS or CYFD gets involved. it seems like the genetic testing is one that there is some leeway on, but what a lot of people don't realize is that they're holding on to the DNA, right? And, I think that's something that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. There's a ton of crimes that are being either solved or investigated based on even 23andMe. There are horror stories of people being arrested for like crimes, like sex crimes that their family committed or their uncle committed because there's a genetic,
wow.
It's like implicating because they're so similar.
Yeah.
And the investigators get it wrong and they have DNA evidence and it's, someone else.
Dang. So, hold on to your DNA. That's crazy, dude. What a world we're living in. Like a generation ago, everybody was freaking out the end of the world's coming because of nuclear weapons. And now we have ethnically targeted bioweapons, which is just so funny. It ties into the Ukraine thing, of course, because I'm pretty sure I saw running around Putin was warning about, no, that's what it was. I should have put this in the show notes, but it was something about in Ukraine, there's a bunch of biolabs apparently, or there were, and they were collecting, I think he actually says it, doesn't he say it? JFK or RFK? Either way, that they were collecting ethnic DNA for the Russians for a potential targeted ethnic bioweapon attack. Wild. Okay. Next thing's next. I wanted to kind of explore this idea of, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time, but specifically how truthful to be with friends, family, and how I think there's like in our generation, the millennial generation, there's this temptation to like really censor, like I say censor, I mean like soften words, to coddle friends, to never kind of have real talk. And the question is, can you love apart from the truth? This is kind of coming from a personal experience where a friend of mine is misbehaving in his lifestyle choices. And I was frustrated because I feel like with this person, I'm put in this position constantly to like hold to account, and I don't want to do that. It feels like, I'm being narc or something, I don't know. But I also know this person probably doesn't have someone like that in his life right now to kind of tell him like, hey, stop that. It's like what we talked about in the week before last podcast. You're killing yourself by embracing your sin or by not being afraid of it, by not taking it seriously. Sleeping around, probably drinking a little too much, heavy in the corn. I already said the full word earlier, so what does it matter? And so I feel like I've got to say something or encourage or, and so I do. And it comes across as unloving, judgmental. And I'm like, dang, man, I don't want to say it, but I feel like I've got the obligation to say something. And on the flip side of it, it's like, oh no, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It's fine. Just keep sleeping with girls. And the problem with it I have, it's like, on one end, it's like, I'm fine. If you're like not a Christian, I have no voice in your life. But this guy's a Christian. And I'm like, no, can't do that. And it's like, yeah, he acknowledges that it's wrong, but it's also like he doesn't really care. Also, it seems like. And so someone else would probably, a lighter Christian would probably just be like, yeah, go ahead. I don't care. Or like, I don't know. Do what you got to do. Love is love. Remember that show? It was the addiction show. I always forget what it's called. Where they do those intervention. And there was like a big principle in the show that you cannot enable this behavior. And so they always give like the family member an ultimatum. And someone, when they're caught, it's so hard because the person that's caught in the addiction, in the sinful death behavior, and all the wages of sin is death, and we're all caught in sin one way or the other. The difference with this person is they were justifying it, and they were like, oh, it's fine, I'm forgiven. And it's like, well, kinda. But Paul says, the wages of sin is death. He also says, should we sin that grace may abound? Absolutely not. There's also a scripture that comes to mind that always terrifies me when I'm caught in like a habitual sin. It's 1 John, where he says, he who sins and keeps on sinning has neither seen God nor known him. That's heavy metal. It's sobering. And I love that scripture. It's really harsh. It's just like, oh gosh. I sin every day. Yeah. The point is, do you not grieve for your sin? There's that other scripture that says, seek out your salvation with fear and trembling. I get accused of being like this fear monger or this something like that. I'm like, no, but do you understand what the Bible says about sin? It's not good. And it's hard because like I'm sure like I probably come across a little self-righteous, but I'll be the first one to say I'm chief sinners. I'm bad. I've been in bad places. I'm a sinner today. But it's out of genuine love, and it sucks because it doesn't always get perceived that way. To get back on the intervention story or the intervention trail, they'd always give the family member an intervention or like an ultimatum, where it says, if you don't do this, I've got to cut off the relationship. I can't hang out with you anymore. Or I've got to, you got to kick you out of the house. Got to do this or that. Can't enable the behavior. Got to take whatever leverage you have as the family member to try to cut it off. And because the person won't stop until they decide, hit rock bottom or whatever, and decide to stop. They won't change course. They won't repent. It's the same principle. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, you got the soft person who's going to be like, yeah, I keep doing it. I'm a Christian. We're Christians. It's good. Jesus saves. Jesus forgives. And then I'm forced to be the guy like to tell the truth, be like, well, listen, yeah, his mercies are new every morning. His grace is sufficient. But James says, a faith without works is dead. And if there's no sorrow for your sin, if there's no grief, then you gotta search out your salvation with fear and trembling. And I sound like a butthead, but dang. Like, what do you do when you're put in that position? And I'm like the only person that's in this person's life, it seems like, that will say something, in a loving, truly loving way. Do you just... This person texted me and said, I don't want a relationship with you anymore, pretty much. I was like, dang, dude, heavy metal. Okay. If that's what you want. Do you have any thoughts on that, Chorus? Have you ever been put in that type of position?
Yeah, super recently. I was put in that position. And it's a weird place to be because I feel like I've had those people in my life when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. And you were in a different mindset.
Different mindset for sure. And to be that for someone else it's a privilege, and it's intense. It's hard to navigate. It's like, how much grace do you offer? Do you temper the truth? No, you can't. That's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But you want it to be edifying. It's also a degree of faith, right? If I'm being obedient to the Lord and I'm planting a seed, then the Spirit will do His work, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's a hard situation
it takes
to navigate.
Trust. What kind of encourages me to kind of just not be like tasteless or like just straight up a jerk. But it's when Jesus says a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they'll persecute you also. But to me, that signifies that, hey, You can't be loved by the world and the Father. Like you gotta make a choice. You gotta be faithful. It kind of goes back to again, I'm not casting judgment against Mike Pence and his salvation or anything like that. I'm not. But as far as methodology, I'm kind of talking about what you're talking about there is, at some point you got to kind of take the leap of faith and say, hey, I'm going to tell the truth. I know this may not come across. We're not stupid. I mean, you can kind of tell when something's not going to land right, but you still feel like that conscience propelling you to like, I've got to say it. I've got to tell it. And funny enough, I picked this up from Allie Beth Stuckey, and I've said it before, but there's this idea that kind of encouraged me to kind of continue in that, is that you put a pebble in someone's shoe. When you say something that they may not like, but is true and is said in love. It goes back to parenting, right? It's like God says, God disciplines those he loves, those he considers children. Discipline to a child at the time does not seem nice. They don't like it. But if you love your child, you're going to discipline them. You're going to train them. You're going to show them consequences. You're going to introduce them to nature. Nature's harsh. And that's what always kind of encourages me, is like, nature is accountability. You know, if you go out into the wild unprotected without a weapon or whatever, and you come across a bear, like, that's welcome to the truth, man. Nature's not too kind all the time either. And I use that kind of to think about like God, because God he put in motion nature. And that to me is like, if nature's kind of unforgiving in that sense, not literally unforgiving, but in the kind of brutal sense, and we are so tempted to not be that way, I think that's like the weakness that's like the sinful nature, is to just like, oh, I don't want trouble. I don't want to. And you think of the prophets and you think, I'm sure like Jonah's the perfect story. I always think of the prophets. You think the prophets wanted to go and get in trouble? No way. Jonah did not want to go to Nineveh. Ezekiel, in that whole section, in the beginning, I think it's like Ezekiel 3, could be wrong, but he's essentially like going back and forth with, essentially God telling him, he's saying, if you go and tell Israelites of their sin, and if you do so, the blood, and they continue in their sin, their blood will not be on your hands. But if you tell them, or if you don't tell them, their blood will be on your hands, because they will not know whether or not to turn. And so it's like, that's how I feel sometimes. That the Lord's kind of bestowed upon me like certain things. He's like, you got to say something. You got to do it. You got to stick your neck out. Do it as loving and as kind, as gentle as you can, which is I'm not very good at, admittedly. But I have this responsibility, like Ezekiel had this responsibility. Tell them. And if they kill you, I sent you, What's cool about Jonah's story is they didn't, that they actually repented. So that gives you a little hope. That wasn't the case necessarily with the 12 disciples. They got it pretty bad. But that's the life of the Christian. That's what I think a lot of Christians really understand, is like, the Christian life is not necessarily like, it's hard. It's like on one end, it's like the Proverbs say the righteous will live on the heights of the land. And that's true, I think, principally. Like if you deal with people properly, you care for people, you love people, there is a principle, generally speaking, that yes, you will live on the heights of the land. People will want to support you. People want to give back to you. But societally, if you're righteous, if you listen to the Lord, and you're a prophet, sort of, whatever, if you're called to be the truth teller to a culture, I don't know if you're going to live on the heights of the land. I don't know. You look at a Jordan Peterson, he's kind of over the last 6 years, been somewhat of that type of figure, and he's done quite well for himself. regardless, I lean toward the idea of tell the truth. And if it doesn't land at the time, it's okay. You need to be faithful to your conscience. You need to tell the truth. Some people don't have that. Some people have awesome dads that tell them and raise them up, import all these awesome things into. And I'm one of them. But some people don't. Some people have lost their dads. Some people have, even worse. I was listening to a guy tell a story about it was brutal. Some people have it bad. Just say that. And so it is the Christian's obligation to tell the truth. And whether or not people take it, it's like Jesus says, I'll end on that. It's just like the parable of the sower, right? You just throw the seeds out. Sometimes they'll land among thorns. Sometimes they'll land among good soil. Essentially saying, hey, proclaim. I'll take care of the rest. And so I lean into that. Like, I don't know every listener. Like, I might have offended so many people throughout this entire content. Throughout the entire show or previous episodes. And I can't know that. I don't know. I'm just here to share. And if it lands, awesome. Praise God. If it doesn't, well, I pray that at some point it does. It's like you, Chorus, right? I mean, talking about how sometimes it landed with you, or sometimes it didn't land with you. And then as you get older, sometimes it does. Sometimes you're ripe, sometimes you're not. To my friend, I love you. I genuinely love you. And I want the best for you. Okay. Listener questions. We have any listener questions?
All right. We have the first one here. What is your take on white lies? And is there ever a reason to lie?
Relevant, kind of telling the truth, Is there ever a reason to lie? It's funny, when I worked at Starbucks, there was always this scruples question. This guy, Tom said, yes, you can lie. Like, what if he used the classic, what if you're hiding Jews and it's World War II and the Nazis come to your door and say, are you hiding Jews? He says, yes, you lie. So I would agree. Like it's obviously super complex. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like it has to do with intent, right? Like if I'm lying for personal gain, that's one problem. If tyranny is at my door asking for my children,
exactly,
that's a different answer, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a matter of the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously the heart. Yeah, it's a perfect answer.
The blurriest ones for me are like the white lies that are for flattery. Like, how does my hair look?
I think that's kind of what this question's aimed at.
Yeah, and that's hard.
It's been a battle for me. I come from a relatively blunt family, but I grew up, but I somehow deviated and was super passive in my earlier 20s, late teens, very passive, very flattering. And I think as I'm getting older, like I'm really challenging myself, even subconsciously now. I think it's just becoming a part of my subconscious thinking of like, tell the truth. Cannot tell a lie. There's a story, I think it was like one of the founding fathers. Obviously, I don't know, I just have this ambition to do my best to tell a lie. There's also a proverb that I really think about in this. The righteous man has nothing to hide. And I kind of like want to live by that truthfully, like in all aspects, to really have nothing to hide. And in the same way, that means, and I think people choose their friends, choose whether or not they want to be, I'm losing friends based on this probably, but just being truthful. Now, there's something to be said about being gentle, and maybe I can learn something about that, but I'm trying to find that balance of like honesty, like just being genuine, authentic, But it gets you in trouble, man.
Have you ever
I've
noticed
gotten
that
in trouble a lot this last couple of weeks because of this.
because of being
Just
blunt?
Yeah, well, yeah, not even like rude, but just trying to be honest, just trying to say real things that and I don't use words very well all the time, but I do my best to be honest.
I think there's a reason that tough conversations tend to be long ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's like irony. It's like painful. Like, let's just get this over with, and they tend to be drawn out. But it's also an opportunity to apply a little bit of salve once you're done doing the hard work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a tweet where you just spank someone and then move on. It's like, I love you. This is what must happen, or what I have to say to you because I love you. And then where do we go from here? You know, there's a little bit
Exactly.
of like scaffolding that you have to build along with your.
Yes. And you know what also helped me with this? Because really, I think I actually pulled this from a Jordan Peterson thing, and I have it clipped in my phone. I'll maybe play it another time. But he said, with conflict, this is great actually, and pertains to this topic perfectly. But he says, oftentimes when you avoid conflict, you're just suspending conflict. You're sacrificing short-term conflict for long-term peace. Sorry, when you engage in short-term conflict, you're preserving long-term peace. But when you don't engage in short-term conflict to keep the short-term peace, you're just suspending it for long-term chaos and turmoil in your relationship. And that's what I principally am starting to understand and learn. And a lot of my relationships, some of my relationships didn't have that, like that, hey, let's talk about this. This bothered me. And so I'm trying to just air it out immediately. And it's uncomfortable. But the truth is, I'm hoping that in the long term, I could preserve long-term peace. But it's uncomfortable. I don't like conflict. I don't like talking about things that are uncomfortable or making someone feel bad necessarily. But yeah.
We have another question here. This one was actually texted to us on our phone number.
Awesome.
Says, my wife and I would love to hear about Christian faith as it relates to art. We are both artists and love your show and your work. As fairly new Christians, we are very interested in and inspired by the relation between these two. A recent conversation with someone in the film industry about it has us very interested in the subject. We're currently building a studio and haven't watched anything in a while, so forgive us if you've already discussed this. Cheers from Arizona, John and Rosa.
Oh, thanks for writing in, John and Rosa. Yeah, we did actually talk about this. This has kind of been a relevant topic we've talked about on a few different episodes. But yes, I think art is, the way I see it is, art is just kind of like a tool. It's a medium. And yeah, I think Christians should engage in it. It's like music, for example. I talk about this with a lot of friends. Music's hypnotizing. It's a tool that utilizes the senses. And it invokes emotional, spiritual responses in us. And I think I used to be in a position, growing up in more charismatic church, that because music was hypnotizing, or it evoked certain emotional responses or certain behaviors, which it just does, that because of that, it was manipulative, and all manipulation was inherently evil and wrong. But I think as I got older, I started to kind of think of it. This will just be one dimension to answer your question, and hopefully this helps. But participates in it. I kind of, in my older years, not that I'm old, but I kind of became more of like, oh, that's just mediums. If it evokes you toward godliness, or it evokes you toward repentance, or evokes you towards submission toward the Lord, what's wrong with that? That's good. And and they're powerful tools, don't get me wrong, very powerful tools. I think that we should engage in it. I think that throughout history, you see these kind of like evil using art, and Christians seeing its effect on culture and then saying, throw it all away. Get rid of art. Throw your CDs, burn your CDs, the satanic panic type of thing. And I understand that perspective. Our culture is kind of going through some of that right now. But I think the right response is to get engaged. Get engaged in the culture. Get engaged in art. And use it to the glory of God. Final video. Do we have more?
No, I think that's the last question.
Okay, yeah, let's do the final video. I think there might be one or two. What do we got, brother?
We've got this one.
I need water. Help me. I need water. Help.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I need water. Help me. I need water. Help.
That's great. What's this say?
To be rescued and then spin cycled. This is a video from a few years ago that's kind of making the rounds again, but it's you just have to watch it.
Peak to help a woman who got hurt
Oh
while
my
out on a hike.
gosh,
You can see there that she's being
no.
airlifted, but Sky Fox is showing
Oh
that
my
This is
she
actually a
spinning
shorter
around
cut.
and
It
around.
gets-
She had
it
quite
gets
the
so
bumpy
bad.
ride. She was placed in that basket, hoisted up.
Are they
in
trying
the
to
rescue
kill her or
helicopter,
save her
but she
life?
ended up spinning there, unfortunately, for quite
Look
some
how
time,
quick it
out of
gets.
control, spinning around for several
Oh, what
minutes.
a
We're told the
sad
woman is
mistake.
74 years old. And got
Oh
hurt while
my
out on the trail. It's not exactly
No.
clear how
It's
or how
so bad.
serious
Look
those
how quick it
injuries that
gets.
she sustained
Did
on
they let
the
her
trail
down?
were.
Oh my
But
God.
we're
What do you
trying to figure
do?
out if
I don't
she
know what you
sustained
even do.
additional
Why did they just
injuries
leave-
while on this rescue,
Oh
spinning
my
out of
gosh.
control. And what a horrible.
Whoa.
That's insane.
Is there, I wonder if you could find out what happened to that person.
I looked it up.
If they're not already dead.
When I looked it up when it was, and she fully recovered.
Oh, good.
She had like major like blood rushing to her head because obviously of the
Yes.
spinning. But yeah, it got spinning
Did
so
she sue
quickly.
them?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked up that part.
Do you sue the people who saved your life?
Maybe
Kind
some
of
people
saved
do.
your life?
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal. So probably what happened was the rope or whatever was coiled up, right?
Must be either that or the turbulence from the propellers, maybe. That was rough.
That was brutal. All right, that's the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to us. Hope you like the new set. It's pretty fun, right? If you like the show, is any value to you, like the show, subscribe to us. Helps us in the algorithm. And then lastly, I think we're going to introduce a conspiracy segment. So send us your favorite conspiracy theory in the comments. Okay. Love you. Bye.